Good morning to you all. Welcome to the Erudite program, a panel discussion of AP State Council of Higher Education. Today, the topic of Erudite panel discussion is making learning a pleasant activity. All of us, we know that the teaching learning process has been undergoing lot of changes, starting with chalk and talk method to different type of interactive as well as collaborative learning techniques are being introduced into the classroom. But whatever be the strategy, finally the learning should be a pleasant activity. Now, in this today's scenario, how learning in higher educational institutions should be made a pleasant activity. Today we have with us three panelists. Chief guest Professor Minati Panda. We have with us the Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Adikavi Nannaya University, Professor Jagannadha, and we have with us the Vice-Chairperson of AP State Council of Higher Education, Professor T. Lakshmamma. Welcome to the three panelists. Now, with this topic, may I request now Professor Minati Panda, the Professor of Zakir Husain Center of Education Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I welcome you, madam, for this Erudite program. Professor Minati Panda is not only a professor in Zakir Husain Center of Educational Studies, JNU, New Delhi, but she has also been a visiting professor for International and Transcultural Studies, Department of Comparative Education, Teachers College, Columbia University, New York, USA. And she had been the coordinator of the Center for Advanced Studies, ZHCES, Jawaharlal Nehru University. And she has also been a visiting professor for Center for Mathematics Education, University of Manchester, Manchester, UK. Visiting faculty at the Laboratory of Comparative Human Cognition, University of California, San Diego. And she had been professor in social psychology of education. So, with this a very less introduction, may I now ask Professor Minati Panda, the professor of Zakir Husain Center for Education Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, to give her remarks on today's topic, making learning a pleasant activity.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Erudite, for inviting us to speak on such an interesting topic, making learning a pleasant activity. We grow because we learn. All of us know. Learning is like we always learn, everywhere we learn. But then when we intervene in the lives of students through our institutional arrangements, schools or universities, and we try to teach them, make them learn, which they are already doing, it is imperative to also discuss how to make that interesting, because learning in very institutional spaces often becomes little stressful, boring, and isolates children. So I'm really thankful to Erudite for allowing us to speak on this topic. I'm a psychologist, so I'll come from my own disciplinary training to talk about how to make learning interesting. The first and foremost thing, any understanding of human mind tells us that wherever we are, we use all our intellectual and the cognitive and emotional resources to adapt to new content, situation, to learn new things, think in a proactive manner and also think about future. Okay. So learning is about involving all our cognitive and emotional resources that we have. And when we are free to use our own world, the lived world or life world, our cognitive and emotional resources, and we see a growth in our thinking. We are able to think, we are able to create, we are able to imagine and also use our earlier imaginations in understanding anything. We will be happy. What makes us unhappy? When I constrain that space, I suppose my language is not used, I don't understand what is being talked about in the classroom, or I can't identify with what is being discussed in the classroom, or my lived world is not part of this classroom, then I feel alienated. And any process of alienation is boring, is actually is destructive to any enterprise of learning. So the first ground rule is in any class to make learning pleasant for any child is to allow the child's life world to enter, or the student's life world to enter into the classroom. Second, when we allow children's intellectual and emotional resources to enter into the classroom, we also create pedagogic opportunities, or opportunities for contacts between different dialogues, between different knowledge systems, and then see a kind of growth in the dialogue. Okay, so if the students' knowledges are allowed, their identities are given a space, their emotions are given a space, their language, their conceptual categories populate the classroom discourse, they will find that engaging, and then learning will be interesting. In 2006, I did a small paper, it's a major paper actually, on mathematics, where one argument I had given that in the classroom, if there is a discourse on mathematical concept, any concept, number, addition, algorithm, any algorithm, we pick up a set theory, but if there is a dialogue, and as a teacher, I create opportunities for every student to join the dialogue, participate in the discourse, and that discourse continues, say, for a month or two, there is no way that the children will not learn. If everybody is participating, there is no, one first assumption is that they will also be enjoying. If they do not enjoy, they will not participate. So the challenge with her, the challenge that we have is about how to translate this understanding of creating a more inclusive, intellectually and emotionally inclusive and intersubjective space into a pedagogic practice. So what kind of curriculum I need, what kind of teaching learning practices, pedagogic practices I need to make things relatable, to make things, help me explore new concepts, new knowledge, and also see a hope in future for my growth as an individual as well as a collective. Then I will enjoy learning. So the challenge here is how to translate that into pedagogy goals. In higher education, I've seen in my university, one of the first things that I do in a classroom, I ask my students, what's your story? Why are you here? Why do you do psychology? And why do you come to say JNU? Or why do you join undergrad program or master's program? Or why do you want to do PhD? What's your story? And people populate the class, first class with their own stories of success, of excitements, of failure, of fears. And, many people go on tangent. And this batch asked me, okay, what's your story? I said, I did psychology because I thought mathematics was easy. School mathematics was easy for me. And psychologists seduced me because unconscious remained very enigmatic for me. I know that I can never understand it fully. And so this enigma attracted me. But what I wanted to say, that it's very important to know each other's stories. It's very important to include the learning resources or the emotional resources of every student in the classroom, and carry out an exciting program which not only helps children as students, look at their earlier concepts very critically, but also use those concepts as lens to look at their lives, others' lives, and also this world. And if education is about, this interconnected, intersubjectively driven world where I also figure, where I am also included, and where I'm also learning something new, then it will be interesting. In COVID time, we are bringing a lot of multimedia stuff to classroom. It's very important to, and they're many times 3D, they have 3 dimensions. So they have a visual dimension as well. And it makes things interesting. But it makes things interesting as long as the students are able to participate in the dialogue. If they do not participate in the dialogue, they cannot learn. So, what I wanted to say is here, because we just have very little time, that any classroom which doesn't allow students' own imaginations, their language, their life world, and the world of knowledge, the world of books, the world of concepts, world of ideas, interact with each other. And if the teacher is not able to, and if the teacher is able to connect, create connections between these multiple worlds, and then advance the discourse on a particular concept, every child or every student will learn. Every student will also contribute to that learning. Second thing I wanted to say is that, we think through concepts. If the classroom dialogue is not conceptual, we also don't learn. There will be no excitement. So joyful learning of the kind that, suppose, UNICEF talks about, if it is just about dance or about telling stories to each other, it doesn't excite us very long, for a longer time. It has to be conceptual. So the challenge lies that we do conceptual dialogue, but we also bring people's stories. We also bring the world of ideas to it. We also bring world of knowledge, whether through textbooks, through what I teach, through multimedia, but I have to bring all this together to engage or to create a discourse which doesn't end in 45 minutes, please. It doesn't excite anybody. A discourse has to continue over, many, many days, weeks, and months. And only then the children will be excited to participate. So the discourse has to be conceptual, has to be inclusive, has to sustain itself for a longer period of time, and should allow everybody to participate in that, using their own cognitive and emotional resources, as well as that the knowledge they have acquired earlier. Okay, only then learning can be interesting. I think what I'll desist from is, these days we talk about this term excellence. It's very racist, it's very casteist, it's very discriminatory. Excellence is important, but that shouldn't be our goal. That's Machiavellian. Everybody fights with each other to engage in a race, run ahead, be the topper. No. More complex psychological outcomes or intellectual outcomes are the intersubjective one, the collaborative one, empathetic. So what we need, suppose we aim at excellence also, we should promote collaboration, we should promote empathy, we should promote conceptual learning, and we should have multiple knowledge systems, including children's life, entering into the classroom. So the challenge lies with the teachers who have to deal with all these diversities to create one line of or multiple lines of conceptual discourse. But conceptual discourse, but the discourse has to be done in a manner that people can participate. They can't stay with discourse all the time. Students get bored. Sometimes they don't have enough intellectual, resource to relate to, so they will fall off the discourse. But the teacher's challenge is to bring them back. So create a discourse, continue the discourse so that students can join, follow, join, follow, join, follow. And if they stay with the discourse, they will learn. So this is where I want to end my talk. You cannot force anybody to learn. We cannot. And that's also very destructive. We have to create a discourse which excites people to join. Not join all the time. You can't be attentive all the time. All of us fall asleep. We fall asleep when somebody else talks. So that, yes, I'll be there and I'll also leave, but then I'll come back if it is interesting. So the pedagogy has to invent itself in a manner that the discourse remains dialogical. It provides multiple contact points for people to join. They can come from their different experiences, different worlds to join it. If they fall off, there should be routes to get them back to discourse, and the discourse has to continue for a longer time for people to come back again and again to it. If a discourse continues like this, it will be interesting, it will be motivating, it will be respectful to children, students, it will be inclusive, and every child will learn. So we must create. And so this 45 minutes or 1 hour class or 1.5 hour class is destructive if we try to finish a discourse within that. A discourse has to continue for a longer time. So I'll just stop here saying that the human, we have evolved for the more challenging and more complex cognitive skills that we have developed is that of intersubjectivity, is that of emotional bondage that we have, is that of empathy, is that of our ability to collaborate with each other and produce excellent objects like computer, telephone, or mobile, anything that you see around us, these books, everything is the product of a collaboration. These are complex human intelligence, intellectual capacities. School or higher education, especially higher education, has to build on that. So instead of promoting excellence, we should promote this. If we promote this, we'll attain excellence of certain kinds. So I argue for a inclusive classroom with a sustained dialogue where everybody's life worlds is included. World of ideas is included without discriminating. Lower caste knowledge or upper caste knowledge or high knowledge, low knowledge, or knowledge of African people or women, we should not discriminate. Everybody should be part of that, and we should work against patriarchy. This man destroys us. So bring bit of women in you, bring bit of transgender in you, bring bit of a blind person in you. Like experience every body, every individual, and their knowledge, their experiential world, and only then we can create new knowledge. We can create learning which is interesting, joyful, participatory, creative, and therefore excellent. I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Minati Panda. So you mean to say that the learning will be more joyful, learning will be more pleasant if the student is included in the classroom discourse. So there should be the cognitive as well as emotional participation of the student in the discourse, and when once his own ideas, when once his own imagination is getting into the discourse, maybe the learning will be a joyful event. I'll come back to you, ma'am. Once again, I'll get back to you again. Now, we have with us Professor Dr. T. Lakshmamma Garu. May I request Professor Lakshmamma Garu to give her views and suggest how the learning could be made more joyful, more pleasant for the students of higher education. Madam, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mathew, sir. Once again, I invite Panda ji, Professor, and Jagannadha Rao, sir, Vice-Chancellor of Adikavi Nannaya University, once again on behalf of AP State Council of Higher Education and also on my behalf for this Erudite program. Thank you, sir. For me, in fact, learning, making learning a pleasant activity. For learning to be a pleasant activity should not be making in that way, it should be by itself, by one's itself. After all, the other persons may facilitate how learning should be a pleasant activity. It is true, once upon a time or even when we were as schooling days, learning is really a pleasant activity, very much. The very purpose of regional libraries you all might be knowing, mobile libraries are meant for this. But due to other factors, changes have been taken place, but always learning, if it is a pleasant mode, it takes place in a very sustainable way for any purpose and for anybody in their lifetime. If we recall the days of learning during our schooling days, still we'll collect in a very share and in a very emotional way, because they are pleasant learning days, I feel. In fact, learning is not making to be a pleasant way. In fact, it is by birth, it is by biological, physiological, it is natural in any life, in any child or any human life. Starts from birth even before opening their eyes. If you observe a newborn with a little lips and in between a little tongue, tries to take breast milk. Only the life giver, the mother, facilitates how it should be to the newborn. Hence, learning takes place by birth. The mother would be, the life giver would be the first teacher and would be the best teacher of a newborn. The home is the first and best center or school of a life born to learn. To learn anything, to be a pleasant, it depends upon the environment, the resources, the ways the life born gets in. That is the impact of environment on personality development, I believe. Even psychologists has to, it is personality theories, it is there. Okay, like that. And though learning at higher education or at whatever stage, it sounds more, learning sounds more informal, though it includes the curriculum, the formal way of learning at any stage, right from kindergarten to at any age and stage. For me, it sounds more informal in general, other than school books curriculum. Then only it would be a pleasant learning for me. Just of curriculum, school books may not be that pleasant. What I am observing nowadays from the students because of my teaching experience, teaching and research experience. The early ages of life, the facilitator, maybe parents at the school of the home for newborn, how they facilitates the learning. Learning may not be exactly from the books, through observations, through following, through listening, through hearing, by instructions, by guidance. Like that learning takes place. How it would be leads the learning process a pleasant way. A pleasant way. That I hope that is the, an encouraging or inviting way of learning. Learning should be to be a pleasant way. By providing a vocabulary, like having dictionary besides us, by providing models of which they are learning, concentrating, intended to be learned. The instructor to be as much friendly as possible, has to go back to the age, to the stage to whom he addressing. That facilitates, that makes the learning to be a pleasant learning, I believe. And then the sources are very many, varies from stage to stage of learning, context, subject, issues, by region like rural to urban or any place, by subject, it varies. The learning process would vary, depends or resulting in the way the learning should be a pleasant learning. Definitely it could not be similar to everyone. It varies from person to person based on their region they have come up, based on the instructions they have received from right from the children age or child age. It varies from home to home, facilitator to facilitator. Some facilitators we never forget them, we take them as models of our succeeding learning process. Oh, once upon a time our teacher was teaching like this. Even poetry, mathematics, they seems to be tough, but how their teachers taught would makes us so happy and pleasant, and will fond of those subjects very interestingly. That is how learning would be facilitates to be a pleasant learning by our instructors, who vary from place to place, stage to stage, age to age, subject to subject. Personally, I feel and I motivates and facilitates my students, my pupil like that only. Even right now at a university stage also, in the beginning days, the observation, orientation classes I used to take, and I facilitate them like that only, because they are from different places, like mostly rural backgrounds and mostly from instructions or media of their own mother tongue. At higher education, media would be different, text would be different, everything would be different. So, in the beginning days, we have to take them as school children and facilitates them first 1 month, at least 30 days, to cope up with the changing text and instructions. Then their course of study at higher education would be a pleasant one. Reading would be a pleasant one. I feel this is my opinion.
Recording in progress.
The very anticipation of learning is expecting a desirable personality of a live born. Maybe education, learning one and the same, almost expecting, anticipating the desirable change, a healthy, a constructive, a positive change of behavior, more internal and also external behavior. That is the very purpose of reading, learning to be in a pleasant way, of course. Not only this, by reading or by learning slowly in a pleasant way, habituate the learning should be addiction to the reading. Unless and otherwise we read a book in a day, that day would not be completed for some people who have been habituated learning in a pleasant way. I believe there are people still at bedtime they go on take a book and read, while reading they get asleep. To my knowledge, there are people to my knowledge. Coming to the point of students, this type of pleasant learning results with the personality of the students to be very much beneficial during their regular course of work also. Develops comprehensive abilities, understanding, enriches and enshrines their cognitive innate skills, biological skills, through this reading in a pleasant way of practicing. Slowly they picks up. Helps in time bounded success, in getting success in time bounded examinations like reasoning, comprehensive examinations, competitive examinations, precision writing. Students who could participating, sitting for this type of examinations might be knowing all these things. They get self-confidence that I can do, I can read fastly while understanding, I can answer in time, I can answer as much correct as possible in time. That type of spirit or self-confidence would be developed among the students through this smart learning, learning in a positive way. They develop time budgeting also. Time budgeting of regular course, this general reading for their general upliftment, elevation, prioritizing their activities. Many activities are there: regular schooling, general learning, playing, helping the parents, etc., etc. They prioritize, they fix the timings also. That type of positive activities of daily life they get it. Trying to complete their works in advance, tomorrow's work if possible today, like that. Students would develop slowly from kindergarten to schools, then college and higher education levels. All of a sudden nobody would get excellency or pleasant reading or whatever maybe we are expecting at higher education. Instead they have to be developed from right from home itself, at least from kindergarten itself. All this would bring a change in the personality of a newborn, both psychologically, that is internally, and also externally, behaviorally also. This is the very purpose of reading or learning in a pleasant way. During the process of this, sometimes even personalities would ignore or no space for hungry and sleep. We ignore, we forget and go on read if that subject, if that context, if that read is very pleasant way. We'll make ourselves like that. So let us bring that type of good habits, other than good habits like that, among the students, not only at higher education, right from the beginning of the schooling stage. For me it should be among parents also, then only students, children would be habituated like this. Coming to the APSCHE, AP State Council of Higher Education, it is vibrantly working on quality education, quality in education. In fact, it is facilitating online learning, it is facilitating programs like this, Erudite, Talk the Book. What is there in that book? We might not get time to read that book, but let us listen at least, gist, we'll get gist. Sometimes we go on paper that writings of a specific on some books. By reading that things, what is there in that book? Let us read the whole book like that, we'll feel. By reading and reading like that, sometimes we urge, the reader gets urged naturally, okay, why can't we write like that? To motivate others to read our writings. It's natural. We'll get all this if our readings or if our learnings are in a pleasant way. Nothing surprise or nothing impossible. Only thing is we have to attend, we have to practice. We have to be facilitated like this right from the early stage of life itself. Like that, Talk the Book, Smart Skills, I think reading the right, not just reading anything we come across. And programs like this, Erudite, to sensitize the importance, the significance of learning in a pleasant way, or to make it to be a pleasant way, I feel. So let us start, let us begin the beginning of reading or learning in a pleasant way, I feel. And with this very few ideas are sharing with you, the very objectives of this Erudite programs, I think I have given sufficient text to make success of this program. Anything, even the APSCHE, the state government of Andhra Pradesh, facilitating the students at higher education along with the online learning process, stop-gap enrollment facility is there, recognized by both higher education institutions, guiding bodies, UGC, and trying to establish a sort of self-confidence among higher education students by providing compulsory internships, a sort of training to provide employable skills among the students of higher education. Like that, there are so many initiatives functioning under the umbrella of AP State Council of Higher Education in the state of Andhra Pradesh with the approval of UGC and also the government of Andhra Pradesh. So, these very few I am sharing ideas with you all. Let us hope at least from this moment onwards, the others who does not feel learning, just learning not as a pleasant activity would start right now from this moment itself, learning as a pleasant activity. In fact, this learning to be a pleasant activity or pleasant activity should not be very tough to explain. One should experience it. One should experience it to be a pleasant or not. Definitely it would be a pleasant if you attend it, if you pays attention, if you provide space to read, to make the reading a good habit. I hope I have clear in my opinions with all age and stage pupil, right from college to higher education and also to Mathew sir and other professors along with me. Thank you sir. Thank you to the APSCHE once again for providing me the dais to share my ideas with all of you.
So, learning is a natural phenomenon as per Professor Lakshmamma garu. So, while we are learning, Madam has underlined the importance of facilitation. So, whenever the learning is taking place, there should be proper facilitation for the learning, and also the importance of teachers as well as parents in making the learning activity a pleasant activity. And ma'am has clearly said learning should be a smart learning. Thank you, madam. Once again I will get back to you. Now we have with us Professor M. Jagannadha garu, the Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Adikavi Nannaya University, Rajahmundry. In giving out his opinions and views about how the learning has to be made a pleasant one. Sir, over to you, sir, Professor Jagannadha garu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matthews. I'm extremely happy to share the dais with Professor Panda and Professor Lakshmamma. Today's topic, making learning a pleasant activity. Over 33 plus years of teaching, when I look back to my classroom, when I see the students, when you teach the students, very easily we can understand whether my teaching is very pleasant to my students or not. They're just by looking at their eyes. If you say something, if you really understand what you say, the sparkle in their eyes, definitely make the teacher to realize really your teaching is enjoyable by your students. The teacher, the source of knowledge, who is disseminating the knowledge to his students, is the first person have the responsibility to make the student learn in an enjoyable fashion. So that is what the teaching is all about. The teacher is a main subject to make the student, to make his teaching enjoyable. What is to be needed to do that is to be the responsibility of the teacher. Because we have students of different IQ levels, different levels of understanding, different levels of background, different background. So we need to see your teaching really is reaching everybody is not. Unfortunately, now especially at higher education, as a matter of fact, the learning is highly stressful to the student. The stress is because of the parents, the stress is because of the competition, the stress is because of the career orientation. The student is learning now, keeping view the career, the competition, that kind of stress we have in the classroom. The classroom environment is highly stressful because of the various factors. The factors include the career, the future, the pressure from the parents. This kind of environment, with this background, the student is sitting in the classroom and they wanted to learn from the teacher. Again, the learning may not be very pleasant and enjoyable when the teacher is unable in a conceptual manner. If the teacher is teaching from a textbook, the routine way he is giving notes from the earlier books or notes, the concept is not understood by the student. But since he has to reproduce the same in the examination, he will be by-hearting that without enjoying what it is, because he could not understand the concept, but still he has to memorize for the sake of examination. So that kind of environment should be avoided. So who had that kind of responsibility? The teacher has the maximum responsibility because he should be having that kind of pedagogy. So you need to understand how to give the conceptual way, conceptual teaching to the student. He should be experiencing that. He should be experimenting. He should think out of box to give instruction so that the student really understand the concept. Otherwise, we will not be able to produce that kind of intellectuals to the society who will become future scientists, future inventors, if you simply give the teaching for the sake of teaching. So that is what we need to understand. There are many generalized things which they say, okay, you get them a break, create positive attitude, prioritize information, allow independent discovery and learning, encourage social learning, invest in the incorporate technology into classes. So all those things are there, suggested by various researchers to make the learning a pleasant activity. But I strongly feel the teacher of a given class, the teacher should understand the composition of the class, how the students are responding to the class, how the students are responding to his subject. A geologist should be making the student to learn in a pleasant and highly enjoyable fashion because geology is a field subject. So geology cannot be just taught as a theory. He has to take the student to show how the rocks in the nature are occurring, how various ore minerals are formed, how they are to be identified in the field. So that kind of learning should be there for giving the instruction in geology. When you're talking about a taxonomy, the botany, the teachers should take the students to the field and identify various plants and various species of plants, how they occur in nature. So if the teacher teaches in the classroom and asks them to by heart all these taxonomic species names, it will be boresome and it will be stressful and it will become a kind of a very routine for the sake of examination. So that is where, suppose a pharmacy teacher wanted to teach something, the student should be taken at a pharmaceutical laboratory, how the drugs are made, from the very raw material to the finished product. So this kind of inculcation, this kind of pedagogy, this kind of practices should be designed by a teacher based on the subject matter, based on his experience, based on the requirement. Then only the real learning will be very pleasant to the student. Simply, if you give teaching in a theoretical fashion, especially for science and technology and engineering, it will not be very pleasant. It will be very routine. It will be very stressful, even because the student may not be able to understand the crux or the concept of the subject. When he is unable to understand the subject and the concept, it is just a matter of a few days that he will forget the entire subject, what he has learned. It may be useful only to reproduce that for the sake of examination. So that is where the teachers have the greatest role in the making the process of learning enjoyable to the student. The teacher should realize that, whether a teacher of science, a teacher of technology, a teacher of medicine, a teacher of pharmacy, a teacher of social science, a teacher of management, a teacher of economics, he should be able to give the subject in a more practical manner. Suppose you have a management school, Ahmedabad, Indian Institute of Management. So the out-of-box teaching, they practice. They call it a Harvard model, they practice. When I was there in US, being a person from a native language which is not English, so they wanted me to take a course in technical writing in English. So I have attended along with all other people from Arab states and China and others. We have a teacher who used to come, and her teaching, still I remember, very out of box, very out of box. So first day she came and gave pictures of various gadgets. You have a camera, you have a transistor, you have a video cam, you have other electronic gadgets like a microwave, etc., etc., etc. She asked us to write the user manual for each gadget so that a layman can also understand how to use that gadget. So that is where she asked us to write something as a user manual on our own. Really we write something, then she reads and she suggests, okay, you have to write like this. So we enjoyed that learning of technical writing. So every class is like that, very practically oriented, concept-based, and involving the students in the process of teaching and learning. So in that way, there are methods which are out of box. We need to design based on the subject, based on the teacher's knowledge. Another important thing is, I strongly feel the teachers should behave, how the teachers behave with their students. Unfortunately, some of the teachers are not friendly. when the classroom atmosphere is not pleasant and students do not feel comfortable with the teacher, the learning process becomes complex, may not be pleasant. Because if the teacher is serious, teacher has no patience, teacher is unable to and don't want to answer the questions, maybe of low quality by the student, then the next class, the student may not ask any question, may not want to clarify his doubts from that particular teacher. Then the learning will not be pleasant for the entire semester or entire year of that particular teacher. So if you want to make the learning pleasant, there is a most important responsibility lies with the teacher. The teacher should be able to make the classroom a friendly environment and make the classroom a place of learning in a joyful manner. So, with these few words, I thank the APSCHE for giving me this great opportunity to share my ideas. Thank you.
Sir, exactly, you have said that learning environment. To make the learning pleasant, maybe the environment of learning should be pleasant, and really it is the teacher who has to maintain that particular conducive atmosphere of learning, so that the entire teaching learning process becomes more pleasant. And also you have brought out a particular aspect of the stressful learning. Now, could you please give, as an able educator, administrator who is at the helm of affairs of a very big university, now how do you remove this particular stress during learning of the students?
Yeah, it's a very a question which is very difficult to answer because of the very fact that now learning is more centered around the career. So students are learning, students are made to learn to make a career, develop some skills. So definitely the stress is involved. But as I have already indicated, the teacher has a more and important responsibility to make the student to learn the concept instead of learning by hearting. So where the teachers have greater role and responsibility, and teachers, we need to have the quality teachers at university level. So unfortunately, we do not attract good quality teachers to the university system because of the various factors. The cream of the cream are not coming into the system of education, system of teaching. They are not preferring teaching in universities, rather they are preferring to be in industry or in scientific organizations or going abroad, etc. So definitely we need very good teachers, quality teachers who can really deliver the goods to the utmost satisfaction and pleasant learning activity of a student. So we need to attract quality teachers to the university system.
So the teacher's role is much more
Yes.
in removing the stress from learning.
Yes.
Professor Minati Panda, see, Professor Jagannadha has put it in a different word, stressful learning. But maybe the core thing is also the same. You said that academic excellence. Academic excellence is something disastrous. Now, let me connect both the words, stressful learning, academic excellence. When once the student is made to excel in academics, automatically it leads to stress. Now, whether a student requires academic excellence or not, if academic excellence is to be achieved in a less stressful environment, definitely I agree with you that academic excellence is with a lot of stress. But still, how do we promote academic excellence maybe with less stress on the learner?
This term excellence has a very, very divisive and racist history. The moment we talk about academic excellence, we also start evaluating what is excellence, And so I'm a little scared of using this term academic excellence. I would rather say that everybody should learn, and everybody should learn freely, and should be able to also create new knowledge, should be able to contribute to the existing knowledge, and if possible, create new knowledge. Classrooms are not for innovations. Let's understand that we can promote innovation in the classroom, but classrooms are to get us familiar with the existing world of knowledges, create relation between ourselves and this, get an entry into that world of knowledge, contribute to that, and see what we can do in future. So academic excellence in our education context has a very limited understanding. It is that of, scoring very high, getting good job, and that's very instrumental way of looking at academic excellence. I'm all for academic excellence, but excellence has to be understood very differently. It is about intellectual growth. Wherever I am I growing intellectually? Am I able to participate in the world of knowledge? I'm not isolated from it, The process should not be exclusionary. I'm also part of that larger narrative of knowledge and excellence. As long as an education system, I'm more for inclusion. To attain academic excellence, you have 10 toppers and then 30 who could never identify with that classroom or with that knowledge is very problematic a project. Academic excellence will anyway come, as Professor Rao said, when there is conceptual learning, when we are able to create a conceptual dialogue in the classroom. And what I rather urge for is, why I give the example of joyful learning. Joyful learning should not be about only joy. It should be about learning. It's not about dancing or telling stories. It should be about concepts, ideas. I'm getting linked to those world of ideas in certain ways. A teacher provides means to do it. One of the brilliant things that Professor Rao talked about, which I experiment all the time in my maths program, is take the children out to the world, experience the concept in situ, and engage with the concepts and look at the concepts both from these two worlds. One, the world of experience, the other, the world of ideas. We don't leave either. We stay with both. So take the children and let the lived world help them imagine and then engage with the concepts. If these practices are on, if the classroom is about, creating a link between the real world, the experiential world, I'm also not neglected in that. All my emotions and identities are used, and the world of ideas, and I'm able to connect. I will anyway learn joyfully, and I will excel. Whatever that term excellence means, I will still excel. So what we need is a classroom which actually brings the experiential world. I'm with Professor Rao there. Bring experiential world to the classroom. Help build a relationship between the conceptual, more esoteric, conceptual, abstract, world of knowledge, that is the world of ideas. Physics, mathematics, they have their world of ideas, psychology. The whole bunch of conceptual knowledge is out there. People have worked on theories of motivation, learning, emotion, everything. There is world of practice, the world where I live. That is also conceptually driven. When these two worlds meet, and there are pedagogic opportunities to learn by interacting with these two worlds, I will anyway excel. So I think our goal of excellence should be pursued through a goal of inclusive participation, through a goal of getting both the experiential world and the world of knowledge together, helping every student participate, making classroom pedagogy multilingual, multi-ethnic, multi-race, multi-gender, and also in terms of knowledge, multi-foci, it has multiple focus. So my understanding of excellence is very different. My understanding of excellence is that we evolve intellectually better when I am included, I'm respected for what I am. There's dignity, of people, and I'm able to engage conceptually. This conceptual dialogue is very important. Many teachers don't know how to create conceptual dialogue. So dialogue has to be conceptual, but it also allow everybody to participate in that dialogue. That is where the pedagogic innovation is all about. You bring 3D, you bring all the media technologies or everyday experiences or very, very beautiful examples from the abstract, from this world of knowledge, that is physics, mathematics, philosophy, psychology, sociology, political science. Bring examples from there, but those should allow you to engage with concepts and grow with concepts, and then imagine, create a world of knowledge for yourself. That also requires a bit of freedom. So my idea is to create a classroom which is participatory, which is conceptual, which connects me with the world of knowledge, and which connects everybody. It respects everybody. It doesn't leave anybody behind. Not everybody will have, will excel in the conventional sense, but everybody should excel in reference to themselves. At least I'm growing in that class. There is a structure of hope in terms of growth of knowledge. Jobs, yes, unfortunately, that is the driving force. But, if learning is joyful, is interesting, and I'm actually seeing myself growing intellectually, I'll be happy and I will learn. And I will also see a hope in future. So my take on this is that we need everybody to be respected. There has to be dignity. There has to be freedom. And world of experience and the world of knowledge have to meet constantly in the classroom. And teachers should be challenged to, and once it happens, automatically there will be motivation. There is no theory of motivation. I don't believe in this traditional theories of learning and motivation and emotion. No. Anything, if I'm learning, it will be motivating. If I do not see myself learning, it will not be motivating. If there is learning happening, but I can't see myself there, I don't figure there, I'm not respected, then I'll also not learn. It will not be motivating. So good learning is also about motivation, about, taking my emotions into. So I argue for a more multilingual classroom, a classroom which respects every child, a classroom which is out and out conceptual, a classroom which doesn't end a discourse in just 40 minutes or 45 minutes or 2 hours. It continues that discourse for months, years, on, and we should, as teachers, learn how to create that discourse in the classroom.
Yes, ma'am. So the term academic excellence, how you are viewing the term academic excellence should be different. Maybe the students, parents, teachers, all the stakeholders need to redefine the word academic excellence in order to ensure that there is joyful learning. And also,
Machiavellian,
yeah.
collaborative. Yeah.
And as you said, and as Professor Jagannadha sir has said, that learning should not take place within the 4 walls of the classroom. So there is a lot of learning outside the boundaries of the classroom. So I fully agree with you, Madam. Professor Lakshmamma garu. Now Professor Panda, she had been saying about joyful learning. Now, how do we ensure this joyful learning in the classroom?
We can, joyful learning precedes joy in learning. Only when the student gets joy in learning, maybe within the course or related to extracurricular activities, like, definitely the learning would be joyful. Okay. In olden days, when we were students, school going, or even up to class college also, the timetable, the course allotted to learn are different, structured in a different way, giving the scope for extracurricular activities also. not right from 10 to 5 learning sitting in the class itself. We have library hours, we have gardening hours, we have craft work hours, competitive chances for college anniversaries and all, elocution, essay writing, like that there are so many other activities. So, along with activities, that competitiveness naturally builds the competitiveness or joy in learning what is prescribed at course wise.
So, again everything is coming
The
around.
role of, yes, the role of parents who are doing follow up what their children are doing at classes, and the continuous, not motivation, instructions are directing the pupil in the classroom, outside the classroom, makes the students to get joy in learning, naturally leads to joy of learning. Even now if we recollect the school days, how beautiful they are, we feel, but that joy is not finding nowadays in the present generation of school going children.
So, I fully agree with you, ma'am, that joy in learning is more important rather than joy of learning.
Right.
So, whenever the learning is there, again the central dogma is experiential learning. When once the student experiences himself or herself for the different type of learning, the context of learning, then automatically the learning will definitely be a joyful one and a pleasant learning.
That is nothing but participatory learning, right? Right from the Gurukula days to now today, participatory learning.
Professor Jagannadha sir, see, the classroom is always a heterogeneous classroom.
Yeah.
When we talk about different learning experiences, one student may have one learning experience, maybe another student may have a different learning experience. Now, how to bridge this particular heterogeneity and achieve the homogeneity of joyful learning or learning being made more pleasant?
Yeah, definitely it is a challenge to the teacher because teacher have a very limited scope and time to have such a detailed categorization of students and to deliver his instruction. But however, broadly, we have very fast learners and very slow learners. This is not because of the intellectual levels, but because of the backgrounds. Maybe they do not have very good basics and from earlier classes, etc., for whatever the reasons may be. So naturally, the teacher, based on his subject, he has to come up with a model how to give the best possible conceptual teaching so that the slow learner can also be able to understand and enjoy his learning. So it all depends on the class and the subject and the topic he is teaching. So it comes from the very experience and the knowledge levels of the teacher so that he can definitely make a good contribution and make the student to learn based on his experience as well as the knowledge of the subject. He can design that particular topic as a class for the benefit of all the members of the class, though it is heterogeneous in nature. So where the teacher's role is very high and the knowledge should be high also.
So, today's topic, making learning a pleasant activity. Now, the central the phenomenon or maybe the core concepts will be like experiential learning, and the student needs to experience what is being taught in the class, and there should be more of practicality in the learning process. And as the intellectual speakers, panelists had put in, now the crux is again the same thing. The stakeholders, teachers need to be more empowered, teachers have a greater role to play in making the learning activity a more joyful one. Now, on behalf of AP State Council of Higher Education, I thank Professor Minati Panda, Professor M. Jagannadha garu, Professor Lakshmamma garu for participating in today's Erudite panel discussion and giving all your intellectual inputs. With all your inputs, maybe when this is viewed by several of the students as well as the faculty members, they will really know where they need to get modified in order to make the entire teaching learning process maybe a more joyful one. So, once again I thank all the three panelists for being with us, and I also thank the faculty of the Department of Visual Communication and the students of Visual Communication Department of Andhra Loyola College for giving us this particular technology, all the technical aspects of recording this particular program. So, once again I thank each and everyone who are behind this particular thing, and especially to the person who conceived this particular idea of having panel discussions, Professor K. M. Chandra Reddy, the Chairman of AP State Council of Higher Education. So, thank you once again, thank you all.